All right, let's get into it. When we talk about AI and the economy, the story is usually about this huge, unstoppable wave of change. But what if the real story is, well, a lot closer to home and, honestly, way more surprising?
For the longest time, we've all been asking the same question, right? Is an AI going to take my job? But some really fascinating new research is suggesting that we might be looking at this all wrong. The real game changer might not be what jobs are affected, but where they're affected. And trust me, the answer is not where you'd think. So let's dive into what's being called the economic geography of AI. Think of it like this. Researchers have basically created a brand new map of the United States, not based on roads or state lines, but on where AI is likely to cause the most disruption. And this map, well, it's about to flip some of our biggest assumptions about tech on their head. So how in the world do you measure something like that? It's actually pretty clever. This study by Septiandrodri and his team came up with something called the AI Impact Score. They essentially taught a computer to read thousands and thousands of AI patents and then compared the language in those patents to the language in thousands of different job descriptions. It's a really smart way to figure out how exposed any given job, and by extension, any given city, is to all this change. And here is the first major whoa moment from their work. When you lay these AI impact scores out across the country, you see that, on average, the East Coast is actually more exposed to AI's effects than the West Coast. Now, obviously, your big tech centers like Silicon Valley are a different story, but this one finding tells you right away that the AI narrative is way, way bigger than just what's happening in California. And this brings us right to the core of the issue. It turns out the biggest risk factor isn't how close you are to a big tech hub. Nope. It's something else entirely, what we can call the specialization trap. And this is where we find the communities that are most at risk. Just take a look at this. We've got cities like Dalton, Georgia, Columbus, Indiana, Rochester, Minnesota. These are some of the places with the highest AI impact scores. And what do they all have in common? They have really low economic diversity scores. That means their entire local economy is leaning heavily on just one or two industries. So, let's break that down. Think about a place like Dalton, Georgia. It's known as the carpet capital of the world. It's a specialized town, a classic one-trick pony. If AI comes along and seriously disrupts carpet manufacturing, the whole town feels it because there's nowhere else for people to go. Now, compare that to a town with a really diverse economy. Think of it like a balanced investment portfolio. It has jobs in healthcare, retail, services, you name it. A hit to one sector doesn't sink the whole ship. It's just way more resilient. So the key takeaway here, the big point, is that this isn't really about tech jobs versus non-tech jobs. It's not about Wall Street versus the factory floor. The single biggest thing that makes a community vulnerable to AI disruption is a lack of economic diversity. Any economy that has all of its eggs in one basket is going to be fragile when a big technological shift like this comes along. Okay, so the data seems to be pointing toward a pretty tough future for these specialized towns, maybe even a bigger economic divide in the country. But here's the thing. That's not set in stone. That's not inevitable. We are right now at a fork in the road, and there are two very different futures for AI that we can choose between. Down one path, you've got the risk we've been talking about, where AI just makes existing inequalities worse and really hammers those specialized areas. But there's another path, and research from people like Rosalind and her colleagues shows this huge opportunity. AI could be this incredible tool for inclusion. It could help underserved communities get better access to financial services. It can create totally new kinds of jobs, and even help our governments make smarter, fairer policies. And that quote right there just nails it. The outcome, whether AI divides us or includes us, it's not baked into the technology. It's not a feature of the code. It depends completely on the choices we make, on putting the right rules and the right frameworks in place to steer this powerful technology towards a better outcome for everyone. So if it's all about making the right choices, who's actually making them? Well, this is where we have to zoom out, because these choices aren't being made in some quiet little room. They are being hammered out right now in the middle of a massive global competition to see who gets to write the rules for AI. And if you look at the two big Western players here, the US and the EU, you see they're playing two totally different games.
For the United States, the main driver is the geopolitical race with China. The goal is to team up with other democracies to stay ahead. The European Union, on the other hand, sees things differently. Its main goal is to set the global standard for ethical AI. It sees the U.S. as a huge economic competitor and wants to use regulation to create a commercial advantage, to make AI made in Europe the most trustworthy option on the market. So why does all this high-level political maneuvering matter to you and me? Because whoever wins this race gets to set the rules for everybody. They decide who reaps the biggest economic rewards from AI, whether this tech is built on democratic values, and who controls the physical nuts and bolts of it all, like the advanced computer chips that make it run. These global rules will absolutely trickle down and affect every single one of us. So let's bring this all home. The economic future of any given town isn't some predetermined fate written in the stars by technology. It's actually the result of two big things colliding. That town's own local economic DNA, how diverse is it, how resilient is it, and the huge global policy choices being made right now about how we're all going to govern AI. And that leaves us with a really important question to think about. The research shows the danger of a wider economic divide is very real. But it also shows that a better, more inclusive future is absolutely possible. So, is that divide inevitable? Or is it a choice? A choice that we, through our policymakers, our companies, and our communities, are all making right here, right now.